This is John Cola with GrowingYourGreens.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. And what we're going to do today is give you guys an update in my garden here. It's springtime, weather's beautiful. Try to get out early in the morning to garden. It's midday. Lately, a couple of days ago, it's been in the hundreds. Today will be in the 90s. It's not too bad, but I like getting out early and late, working primarily. And then, you know, in the middle of the day, I'll work here and there. But stay tuned for an upcoming episode, or one that I already posted on my top tips on how to garden in 100+ degree weather. Any case, today's update is about my raised beds here. So many of you guys know I have built these raised beds, or I had these built out of these concrete cinder blocks, or not quite cinder blocks, but concrete blocks that are made locally here. And I want to give you guys an update because I did not mortar these in. They were just all set on top by a professional mason guy who does that for a living. Now, if I did it, they probably would have all fell over, but I got a professional guy to do it. So pretty much, you know, they've all held up fairly well, except one time when I tripped over it, then it kind of got off kilter. But that one's still holding up in there. I got a ruler kind of like spacing it out properly. But there's two areas in my garden where actually the blocks have been falling over. And I want to go ahead and share with you guys why that occurred. You know, these blocks, each one of these blocks are like 30 pounds each, so it's unlikely that any major movement aside from an earthquake would get these guys to move. But just the weight of the soil is not heavy enough to move the blocks out of place for any large, you know, scale. So I want to let you guys know that you guys can't do that. Be sure to check the link down below for how I built these raised beds. Oh, the other thing I want to say is, like, I get all these questions all the time. John, what about, like, there's toxic fly ash in the cinder blocks that are being made? So there's toxins in everything is the first thing I like to say, especially in the air and the chemtrails and all this kind of stuff. So we want to minimize our exposure. So it's my personal belief and opinion on my personal blocks that I got, because we don't have any cold fire plants in my area, and the fly ash is actually a result of the coal fire plants that produce power for you guys. And they got, basically that's when they burn the coal, that's what's left, and then they got to get rid of that stuff. So where do they put it? They hide it in things like cinder blocks. They get rid of it and dispose of it wherever they can, because it's a toxic byproduct. So luckily in this area where these blocks are made, we don't have those kind of plants. So these blocks contain potentially none of that stuff, or very little, if any. That being said, you know, I do want to encourage you guys to always do the best you can. This was the best I could do in this area, and that's what I decided to do. And the other question is, even if it is in there, does that stuff really leach out, get into your soil, and then negatively affect your plants? I don't know the answer to that, but I would say that, you know, it's probably far better to have some cinder blocks, even if it does contain small amounts of fly ash in there. Have good soil, have good microbes in the soil that are breaking down all the bad things in the soil, and grow your own food instead of buying conventional food or even organic industrial agriculture food, right? Doing it yourself is always better, even if you got some fly ash cinder blocks. You know, I think in this world today, people just get far too blown out of shape about every little thing. I mean, everything in life is not going to be perfect, but you guys need to do the best you can. I mean, of course, I'd probably rather grow in cinder blocks than plastic containers, right? But more than cinder blocks with fly ash, I'd probably rather use some stones out of my local creek bed, or cut down a tree and use some wood, you know, or from a tree. There's all different kinds of things you could do. And there's so many choices and possibilities out there. And I want you guys to think of possibilities instead of the you know, things that stop you in your tracks. And always do the best you can, right? Growing your own food, even if you're growing in plastic, even if you're growing with cinder blocks that have fly ash, you know, even if you're growing in, you know, wood that's been treated with, you know, I don't know, potentially bad chemicals or like railroad ties, which actually I don't recommend. You know, that's still better than the stuff you're buying at the store, because you don't know how it's being grown, what the fertilizers, you know, synthetic fertilizers are being used, or the toxins that are actually in the synthetic fertilizers, such as heavy metals, or, you know, biosolids that are being used to grow your food. You know, take some responsibility and grow for it yourself. And when you do buy the blocks, you know, check with the supplier and ask them, hey, do you guys use fly ash in there? I checked with the supplier of these blocks, you know, myself. So yeah, do the best you can. Anyways, let's go ahead and give you guys an update of how my blocks are tumbling. So what we're looking at now is one area that my blocks have tumbled actually out of place. Some of them, have some cracks that have developed and over time, but it's not really an issue. But this is an issue. Two of the blocks actually were pushed literally out of place by my plant right here. This is known as the Ikera or Canna Adalis. It has the edible starch-based tubers down there. And what happened is this guy basically, the root mass grew so big it actually pushed the blocks out of place for this one and this guy. So I gotta like hack this out, hack it back, maybe transplant them, and then put my blocks back. I've been kind of too lazy to do that and just kind of walk by and look at this every day. But this is the power of plants. I mean, think about it. When you have a tree next to your sidewalk, it'll buckle the sidewalk, it'll crack the sidewalk. That's what happened here. So is it, my fault that I used these blocks, or my fault that I planted these, canna here that actually pushed out my blocks? Big deal, big learning experience, right? Cut them back, transplant them out. I probably should have separated them early in the season and like potted them up a bunch and shared them with people, because this is actually a really good viable survival food crop if that's what you guys are really into. Grow this stuff. I mean, it keeps coming back year after year, keeps making food. It's powerful enough to, basically tumble over the stones. Yeah, so yeah, that's the number one reason why my blocks got out of place, the canna. Now that's not too surprising, because in my other garden where I have wood raised beds, the canna has also pushed out the wood, raised up the wood, popped the nails out of popped the screws out of the wood holes, because the roots and the expansion of such are so strong. So I guess so that's explainable. Next, let's go ahead and explain the unexplainable and why actually the worst damage happened to my concrete blocks. So what we're looking at now is the worst damage to my concrete blocked garden, or my concrete raised bed garden. As you guys can see, basically this whole side just fell over. And I gotta say, I knew this was coming, because what happens is I seen this wall, which is pretty much straight everywhere, was straight up and down, and it started to tilt, and it got actually at a pretty extreme angle. It was like tilted pretty bad, and then finally, even though these are offset, which is actually good, they're kind of interlocked, because they're not exactly one on top of the other, which they would have tumbled earlier. That kept it in place and held it up longer. And so what happened was the aquajet that's installed on this side of the garden is actually, instead of being straight up and down, is at an angle. So what happens is the water then shoots out at an angle down, and then what happens is the water collects and pools at the bottom of the bricks, and then what happens is the base gets wet, and then basically it erodes away, kind of like the sand on a beach. It erodes away, and then basically the footing got compromised, and then the whole thing came tumbling over. So that's kind of what we're seeing here. So yeah, and it's kind of cool to kind of see the plants and all, like the roots coming down and growing down, like my tomatoes here, and how they just go into the soil. But I guess the next project I have for today is I got a bag of sand and a bag of gravel. I'm gonna go ahead and pull these guys out, pull all the soil out, put gravel down there so that won't erode away, put sand down, try to level this out, stack the blocks back up. I'm gonna have to chop off some of the soil on the end, or push it back because it's been leaning out, and then get this back up against the wall, and then maybe try to adjust the aquajet so that it's not spraying down so much, because you could see, like over in this area, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's dry and the bottom's wet. So like when I plant a plant in here, unless the roots go down past maybe 3-4 inches, they're not getting water. So that's why I've been having some problems with the aquajet, and it's suffering and not doing so well in certain areas when it wasn't properly installed. So yeah, I got a lot of work to do. Let's go ahead and get started on this. We'll come back at you when I got it done. Oh shit! As you guys can see, project rebuild the walls underway. My irrigation system just decided to come on. I don't know if you guys can see that, the aquajet. See how this aquajet is actually spraying out of the hole and then spraying down. So it's totally not even going like straight, it's actually going down. And they're supposed to be every 12 inches, so you can see one popping out here, the next 12 inches, here's one at 12 inches. But for some reason, the water's not coming out right here. Now, is that because it's like blocked up? It should be spraying out, and then in between for a couple feet, it's not spraying out the whole 4 inches. So I don't know what's up with that, but anyways, I'm removing all the dirt off the that's hanging over, so I could like scoop it back. I'm trying to be careful and not damage too many of the roots, but this is a good root pruning for my plants. And then we're just gonna go ahead and cut that back, level out my wall, put it back in, and then fill the dirt in from the top, because it was just hanging out way too much because it didn't have any backing for a long period of time. But yeah, the main issue that caused this is improper AquaJet irrigation install at a nice angle, so the water is actually angling down, going to the base instead of capsulating up to the root zone, which is where I need it to be. This is gonna need to all get done, and I had a feeling this was totally the situation in this bed for a while. But yeah, so if you do get an AquaJet, make sure you properly install it, because this is another, you know, thing that I'm having to do because of an improper AquaJet install. So yeah, not necessarily too happy, because if it was installed properly, I wouldn't be having to dig this up and be having more fun, I don't know, transplant some other stuff in my garden. But yeah, I thought it was cool that it actually just happened to come on when I was making this video. So yeah, and then I don't know what's up with some of the other ones, why they're not shooting out, and maybe they're clogged up, blocked up, I have no idea. Anyways, I gotta get back to work since my water breaks over. Gentlemen, we did rebuild him. It's like one of my favorite shows in the 1970s. $6 Million Man. They rebuilt the $6 Million Man. I rebuilt my raised bed wall. Now, it looks almost as good as new. I had a professional come in and set this up and put it in, you know, properly the first time. And it failed for two reasons. I mean, I was cheap, and I only used sand as an underlayment instead of the gravel. So that probably gave way more. Plus, the AquaJet system was spraying down. If only one of these issues were the case, then it probably still would have been standing. So I went in underneath there, dug it all up, you know, put gravel down, tamped it down, tamped all these guys back in place. It's not 100% perfect, but man, it's, as they say in the government, close enough for government work, which I think is actually sad. You know, we should aspire to a higher standard than just doing it good enough. I mean, this is good enough for me. I could have brought in experts and did it, paid them a lot of money. But yeah, I'm happy with this, as long as it holds my dirt back and so it doesn't fall over, and as long as my plants, you know, get better watering, I'm definitely going to be happy. So in summary, I'd like to share with you guys, number one, I would actually absolutely do a rock wall again, and absolutely number two, I would not mortar it if you're only going too high, right? As long as you get it set up properly, placed properly with a good foundation, you know, I think it should be here for years to come with proper watering. Like if this whole side had drip irrigation, I believe this never would have happened. It's only because of high pressure and high volumes of water that damaged my raised bed, you know. And I know there's a lot of naysayers. Yeah, of course, if you want to waste more time, waste more materials, you could totally mortar this in. That'd be totally the best. Plus, I also like, except in my current relationship, non-commitments. So by not mortaring this in, it's no commitment. If I move or whatever, I could take each block with me, I could take my soil with me, I could turn this backyard into how it was before. And if you mortared in, you know, then it's a lot harder to take apart, you know, in the future, as they say. Other than that, like 99% of my garden has stayed in place without falling over, aside from the other situation over there that I need to probably prune my Akira back and, you know, pot them up or something like that. But yeah, it's been totally good. Let's see, update on the wooden raised bed that I put in years ago. I'm finally starting to see a little bit of rot on some of the wood panels. So that's going to be a little bit more undertaking than, you know, fixing a wall on here. But that's still holding pretty much. I think I've seen like 2 panels that may be, you know, broken on the bottom. So yeah, yeah, you know, systems that we create to grow food, you know, can last a long time. And I want to encourage you guys to, you know, invest in something like stones. It's like what the big bad wolf, you know, one built his house out of what, hay, straw, and wood and brick. The brick's still standing. The wolf couldn't blow it down. If you have a raised bed, you know, it's going to be here for a long time to pass down to your kids' kids, and all this kind of stuff. And wood's going to break down in return and feed the earth. So yeah, it's up to you what material you guys use. I'm glad I went with the concrete blocks, and it's my goal to get the concrete blocks on the other side and replace the plastic circular raised beds. The problem is that's going to be a lot of work, and I don't know exactly when that's going to happen, if or when it's ever going to happen. Anyways, I got some ripe tomatoes to harvest and a whole bunch of other things to do in the garden today. I actually got to fill up, you know, because I got to fill up all the dirt behind here. I got like 3 different buckets full of dirt that I pulled aside to try to get in there to work this. But I'm going to do some loose fill, because this stuff's a little bit wet. It's not going to go all the way down to the bottom, so I got some loose stuff. I'm going to just put in there, and I had to dig up a couple plants to you know, correct this situation. So I'm gonna go ahead and plant my plants back, fill it up, and we'll be done with this project today. And yeah, that's what you get all the naysayers that says that's not gonna hold. It held pretty well, except for some issues, and you guys could do it too. And that's what I'm here just to share with you guys. Well, anyways, I'm rambling. Got to get going. If you guys enjoyed this episode, hey, please give me a thumbs up to let me know. Also, be sure to check my past episodes. I have over 1,100 episodes now teaching you guys all aspects on how you guys could garden and sharing with you guys my trials and tribulations. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below to be notified of my new and upcoming episodes I've coming out about every 3 to 4 days. And finally, be sure to share this video with somebody else that says that, oh yeah, man, stacking concrete blocks, that's not going to work. It totally can work, unless you got issues like I do. So once again, my name is John Kohler with GrowingYourGreens.com. We'll see you next time, and until then, remember, keep on growing. All right, this is John Kohler with GrowingYourGreens.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. What I'm going to do today for you guys is the top 5 ways to save water in your container garden.